They were excavating just as they had done hundreds of times before. But this time, something was different. The ground under their feet wasn't just dirt and rock. It was history, mystery, and perhaps even danger all in one. In the wild hills of Mongolia, a group of researchers made a discovery that may be one of the most startling archaeological discoveries of our era: the tomb of Genghis Khan. For years and years, folk had wondered where the dreaded, mythical conqueror lay buried. Whole books, expeditions, and myths had developed over that one enigma. And now, perhaps finally it could be resolved. When it was first revealed, the globe wasn't so sure how to respond. Was it true? Was it only another hoax, another misidentified grave? But as the information began to come in, it became apparent. This wasn't yet another ancient burial ground. This was something huge. Among the artifacts in the tomb were things that didn't make sense, technology that didn't belong, and maybe even hints at an old power or knowledge that we can't yet account for. The deeper they dug, the stranger it got. And that's what we're exploring today. You won't believe what they found in there. It begins with a team of archaeologists and scientists on a low-profile expedition. Nothing special, just a normal survey in some previously explored territory. But one of their number, working with a recently invented ground-penetrating radar, spotted something unusual. There was a big rectangular room hidden beneath the earth, too symmetrical to be anything but man-made. Thrilled and hesitant, the group began to dig. As they uncovered the layers of soil, odd things began to emerge. Elaborate carvings, strange symbols, and at last, a massive stone gateway closed for generations. It was not easy opening the tomb. The entrance had been made to keep others out, rather than to bring them in. Giant stone plates, complex locking systems, and pressure-sensitive pitfalls suggested that whoever constructed this tomb wanted it to remain hidden forever. But at last, after weeks of cautious effort, the team finally broke through. What they discovered within would alter everything. The room was enormous, larger than anyone had anticipated, and adorned in artwork that appeared not merely ancient, but somehow futuristic as well. There were battle murals, filled skies with unusual flying objects, and warriors in armor that did not resemble any known historical fashion. In the middle of the room, on a black stone-raised platform, there was a coffin. Not wood or gold, but something that resembled almost carbon fiber or even metal that we have no name for yet. And within that coffin, perfectly preserved, was a body. DNA testing would eventually indicate it was of Mongol descent, and more significantly from the 13th century. All signs indicated this was Genghis Khan himself. But things were only beginning. Surrounding the body were dozens of artifacts. Some appeared ordinary enough: swords, scrolls, jewelry. Others? They were strange. One device was like a modern tablet, flat, smooth, with weird etchings on it. Another was like a little generator with coiled wire and a weak hum when handled. Scientists were confounded. How could technology like this exist 800 years ago? Was it lost technology? Alien assistance? Or something else altogether? That's when conspiracy theorists pounced. Online forums, YouTube channels, and even mainstream media started buzzing with speculation. Joe Rogan, who has a reputation for exploring bizarre subjects, had a guest on his podcast who said he had seen classified information about Genghis Khan's tomb years ago. This guest said that the US government and other world powers had long suspected that something powerful was buried in Mongolia, and had monitored the area for decades. Joe himself did not say very much, but he listened intently, interjecting the occasional, "That's crazy, man," or "What if it's true?" And really, can we blame him? If even a portion of what is being said is true, this discovery could redefine history, science, and all that we believe we know about ancient societies. As the media frenzy reached its peak, scientists were not just attempting to analyze the artifacts but were also struggling with what this finding meant. What were the objects? How were they buried with Genghis Khan? And most importantly, what did it imply for knowledge of the past? It was like the tomb wasn't a grave but a time capsule, a link between the ancient past and the present, holding fragments of an enigma that could alter the very fabric of human history. One of the most bizarre items discovered in the tomb was an exquisitely crafted orb. It was roughly the size of a football, with an unfaceted surface that glimmered as if composed of glass, though it was harder than anything contemporary science has yet discovered. The orb also contained odd inscriptions on its rim, and when scientists subjected it to various tests, it gave off a low-pitched whine. Some proposed it might be a communication device, perhaps employed by Genghis Khan or his most trusted associates to transmit signals. Others theorized it might be something more, something related to technologies we are still not yet able to fully comprehend today. More examination showed the material of the orb to be unlike any metal or mineral known. Scientists had samples sent out to labs everywhere in the world, but the findings were the same. This material was not of Earth. At least, not based on anything we can know about the history of our planet. The origin of the orb, whether alien or from an ancient lost civilization, remained unknown. But one thing was certain. Whoever put it in the tomb possessed the knowledge or skill to create something way beyond the abilities of 13th century Mongolia. As the investigations went deeper, researchers started examining other aspects of the tomb with new eyes. Among the other finds was an ancient map, not only of Mongolia but of the world at the time of Genghis Khan, and beyond. What were striking were the areas on the map indicated that weren't in existence then, including a landmass that wouldn't show on modern maps for centuries. A few thought this map showed places lost in time, spots that might never have been there or do not exist any longer. Maybe Genghis Khan was privy to lost civilizations or even far-off places before everybody else? It was more than a historical discovery. It was a bridge to something larger, an energy that united humanity's greatest mysterious people and civilizations. Genghis Khan had been regarded as a warlike conqueror for centuries, a man who ruled from the Pacific to Europe. But what if there was more to him than war and conquest? What if he had a secret mission, a secret knowledge he took with him to death? Let's discuss the technology within the tomb, however. It's the segment that leaves even the most experienced archaeologists baffled. Near the orb was a collection of mechanical devices that appeared to operate like nothing during that era. One of them looked like an early version of what we would today refer to as a geothermal generator, a machine employed to capture warmth emanating from the Earth's core. The device was made out of materials which were unidentifiable to contemporary science. How was a 13th century Mongol emperor in possession of such cutting-edge technology? Was it the result of foreign knowledge, or something bestowed by aliens not of this earth? Other researchers even went so far as to speculate that the tomb was not merely a resting place for Genghis Khan, but also a hideout for knowledge too sensitive to share with the rest of humanity. Was the tomb a safe house, where Genghis Khan's most trusted followers stored their most valuable discoveries? If these objects were so advanced, did it mean there were even more secrets out there waiting to be discovered? This brings us to one of the most interesting aspects of the mystery, the suspicious artifacts that appeared to challenge everything we think we know about the Mongol Empire. One of the most baffling among the artifacts recovered was a scroll, adorned with a language that no one had ever laid eyes on before. It wasn't in Mongolian, Arabic, or even Chinese, languages widely used in Genghis Khan's day. The text was a sequence of symbols and geometric forms, unlike anything in recorded history. But as scholars attempted to interpret it, a disturbing possibility began to take shape. Might this be a message, a hint from Genghis Khan to unlock his complete body of knowledge? The speculation took hold when a renowned linguist who had spent his professional life working with ancient manuscripts came forward with a shocking assertion. The script was not arbitrary, it had a pattern that was akin to a mathematical code, a code that, when decoded, showed an astronomical map, which identified definite constellations and galaxies. Did Genghis Khan know the stars and planets in ways that we didn't believe a man of his era was capable of? Did he have knowledge of the universe that contemporary science is only beginning to discover? Joe Rogan, as always, couldn't help but raise this on his podcast. He posed the glaring question, is this the ultimate conspiracy, a tomb that contains the secrets of a lost civilization, advanced alien technology, or something more bizarre? His guest, an archaeologist who was a member of the initial excavation crew, replied, what if Genghis Khan's empire wasn't all about conquering territories, but mastering knowledge? What if he knew something the world wasn't prepared to know? Lost ancient advanced civilizations was not a new concept, but this was more than anyone had ever imagined was possible. Was it merely the legend of Genghis Khan, or was there a whole hidden history waiting to be discovered? Genghis Khan's tomb and its mysteries were taken a step further when a baffling artifact was found deep in a secret room. This artifact, the Chrono Stone, defied all explanation and science. It was just a little, apparently regular stone, until it came under close examination. The face of the stone seemed to ripple as water and glowed faintly upon contact. Some even said it could change time. This is not science fiction, this was part of the actual breakthrough. You may be asking yourself now, wait, did they discover a time machine? Well, the stone was not exactly a time machine as we would typically envision one, but it certainly brought questions into question. The structure of the stone was quantum-level complex, and its molecular composition led one to believe that it could have been from a time frame much further away than we have knowledge of. A few scientists postulated that the stone was associated with time dilation or possibly even time travel. Is it possible that Genghis Khan, on his conquests and journeys of exploration, encountered some knowledge of time manipulation? Or was this merely part of a much bigger alien technology that was abandoned by visitors from another planet? The Chrono Stone turned into one of the most controversial objects among historians, archaeologists, and even physicists. Its discovery kindled the speculation that Genghis Khan might not have been a conqueror but an interdimensional traveler, someone with the privilege of access to technology that enabled him to break both time and space. While the scientific community was grappling to understand the properties of the stone, an ancient manuscript appeared, buried in a forgotten archive. The manuscript, which dated back to the 13th century, appeared to detail a ceremonial ritual related to the burial of Genghis Khan. But there was a catch. The ceremony was not a funeral though, it was a ceremony to open the universe's secrets, a quest to open doors to worlds beyond our own. The notion was that Genghis Khan, at the end of his life, had access to a secret web of knowledge that connected this world and others, maybe even the multiverse. It was a theory that crossed over into myth. But the manuscript gave us no solid proof, only symbols and words that suggested something far deeper than we had ever dreamed of. Over time, a new theory arose, one stating that Genghis Khan had been the guardian of a lost wisdom, transmitted from generation to generation, even potentially from an extraterrestrial origin. The objects in his tomb, the orb, the stone, and the enigmatic manuscript, were not simply remnants of an empire past, they were pieces to a larger puzzle. The notion that Genghis Khan, a man who was renowned for his military acumen, was also the keeper of an ancient secret had begun to gain traction. This theory gained traction in a most unlikely place. **** in the pages of quantum physics****. A few of the world's top physicists started making connections between the objects discovered in the tomb and principles in contemporary quantum mechanics. Parallel universes, time travel, and secret dimensions weren't just ideas anymore. It was as if the Mongol emperor had been privy to information that could unlock the very fabric of reality itself. To add to it all, there was a cryptic map discovered with the Chrono Stone, a map that showed what seemed to be a set of coordinates in space. These coordinates led to a place at the edge of the Milky Way beyond human reach. Perhaps, just perhaps, Genghis Khan had some association with alien races from other parts of the galaxy? The proof appeared to stack up, each artifact revealing something much greater than the Mongol Empire. This layer of mystery in turn got popular attention, led by Joe Rogan. On his podcast, he proposed that the uncovering of Genghis Khan's tomb could be part of a larger cover-up, a suppressed truth that some powers had been attempting to conceal for centuries. What if Genghis Khan were greater than just one man? What if he was the custodian of age-old knowledge hidden away for a reason? Rogan wondered. His reckless imagination broke open a deluge of ideas, from believable to fantastic. Even some conspiracy theorists opined that the tomb itself was meant to be discovered at a certain time, maybe millennia from now, when humankind would be mature enough to grasp the real nature of the cosmos. The coordination of the position of the tomb, the relics, and the timing of their discovery appeared too calculated to be a mere accident. Was it all part of some plan? And if so, what did it signify to us today? Were we about to unlock a new stage of knowledge that would be able to transform everything? While this argument continued, the grave of Genghis Khan kept receiving publicity from all sides of the world. New expeditions were mounted, and state-of-the-art technology was utilized to probe the location deeper. What would they discover next? More artifacts? Or maybe, deeper insight into who Genghis Khan actually was and what he understood? Whatever it was, one thing was for sure. His grave was no ordinary graveyard. It was a portal to secrets of the past and possibly the future. Might it be that the resting place of Genghis Khan was not only the tomb of a great conqueror, but the portal to a knowledge that had been lost to humanity for millennia? And if so, what would be the consequences if we opened its secrets? The more we heard about Genghis Khan and the treasure collection of artifacts buried with him in his tomb, the more our questions grew. What if what we were trying to find was not just beneath the earth but beneath time as well? As excavation progressed, finds within Genghis Khan's tomb took an astonishing turn that no one had anticipated. Along with the treasures found were pieces that defied any apparent historical context. The artifacts, at first glance mere ceremonial pieces or personal items, soon showed themselves to be much more enigmatic. Among the earliest startling finds were ceremonial daggers, beautifully crafted and inscribed with symbols that held no known equivalents to any known Mongol or Asian cultures. The daggers appeared to be imbued with a power in themselves, as if they had been created to serve a use beyond ritual purpose. The carvings on these swords were so accurate, so finely detailed, that it seemed as if they had been carved by a machine, something totally out of place in the 13th century. And then there were the scrolls, written on parchment that had survived the ravages of time. Their survival was nothing short of miraculous. These scrolls held text that appeared to be a combination of old Mongolian script and unfamiliar symbols that nobody had ever encountered. Linguists attempting to interpret these texts were left perplexed, with no reference to known languages. Symbols were found looking like celestial objects, old constellations, and what seemed to be maps of far-off galaxies. The scrolls, as far as it could be told, were not merely concerning the past of Genghis Khan but concerning something way beyond his time. As researchers dug deeper into the tomb, they found more unexplainable items. Among the most mystifying was a map, not of any familiar geography on the planet, but one that illustrated strange, unidentified landmasses. The map appeared to depict a world quite different from our own, landscapes and terrains that were not recognizable from any known geography. It was as if the map was tracing an entirely different world, issues that no scientist, archaeologist, or historian could provide answers to. In addition to the map, stones were found that possessed a translucent nature, emitting a weak glow. The stones produced an unusual energy that disrupted electronic devices brought close to them. Metal detectors could not pick up any type of radiation or energy emitted by these stones, but their enigmatic nature left even the most experienced scientists amazed. Scientists were unable to determine why these stones glowed or how they could affect contemporary technology. The most frightening find, though, was the existence of ancient technological tools, which seemed much more advanced for their age. These tools resembled primitive mechanical devices, yet their purpose could not be understood. Some were similar to complicated gears and dials, whereas others looked like communication devices of some sort. There were even traces of circuitry in the form of thin metal wires running inside the objects. This caused a few scientists to propose that the objects belonged to a civilization or culture way above the known technology of the Mongol Empire. Experts from all corners of the globe, including engineers, physicists, and historians, were summoned in to examine the objects. They only added further to the intrigue. The sophistication of the technology in these items appeared entirely uncharacteristic for the 13th century. Some have gone so far as to theorize that the products were a leftover of some now-lost culture, or indeed an extraterrestrial source, which has promoted conspiracy theories which hold that the empire of Genghis Khan had access to extraterrestrial technology. As the excavation kept producing more artifacts, the scientists focused their attention on the most important discovery, the remains inside the tomb. The genetic testing of the remains, though, produced results that were as puzzling as they were unsettling. DNA samples from the remains revealed genetic markers that did not belong to any known human line, causing an uproar among scientists. This was a surprising twist of events. Genghis Khan, the most powerful man in history, was thought to have been Mongol in origin, but these genetic irregularities indicated otherwise. These scientists ventured that these markers could be pointing towards an ancient lineage, one that was not only different from Mongolian lineage but perhaps was associated with other cultures or civilizations. There was even speculation about the potential for non-human genetic material, though this was written off as mere speculation at the time. What caused more eyebrows to rise was the genetic abnormalities in the skeletons of people who were entombed along with Genghis Khan. They were detected in a number of the people within the tomb, which hinted at the fact that Genghis Khan's family or trusted companions could possibly have had this peculiar genetic pedigree. This sparked interest not only into the past of Genghis Khan but also into the very nature of people who stood by him. Other anthropologists suggested that such anomalies might be the product of cross-cultural interaction, that Genghis Khan might have foreign bloodlines from conquered territories affecting his family's genetic profile. Others suggested that the genetic anomalies might be a part of an even greater mystery, perhaps associated with ancient traditions or even with the possibility of extraterrestrial influences on the Mongol Empire, a possibility that continued to gain momentum with each new finding. When the discovery was made, news of the same spread rapidly, and thus it generated discussion not just amongst scientists but worldwide. The implication of this discovery was so dramatic that it transcended the borders of academia. Political and cultural arguments started breaking out, such as who actually owned Genghis Khan's remains and genetics. In Mongolia, Genghis Khan is not simply a figure of history, he is a national hero, the embodiment of national strength and solidarity. The find of his tomb brought sensitive questions of national identity and the devotion with which he is remembered into the open. Many Mongolians believed that the tomb itself and its artifacts should be left in the country and preserved as part of national cultural heritage. Still, the discovery of such revolutionary scientific information, in the form of DNA samples and ancient technologies, created the concern that the remaining world should or should not be allowed access to such discoveries. This created a complicated geopolitical dilemma. On the one hand, scientists contended that the discovery of Genghis Khan's DNA would reveal revolutionary breakthroughs in genetics, medicine, and anthropology. On the other hand, there was increasing resistance from Mongolia, as many citizens and officials were worried that the global community would exploit the discovery for their own purposes, possibly encroaching on their cultural and historical rights. Joe Rogan, known for his thought-provoking discussions on his podcast, was one of the many who found this discovery both fascinating and troubling. He delved deep into the complexities surrounding the tomb's find and explored its potential impact on global relations. Rogan pointed out how this discovery was not just a breakthrough in historical research but also a geopolitical game-changer. He spoke about the possible consequences of having unearthed sophisticated technologies, the effects of the enigmatic genetic irregularities, and how such discoveries could change humanity's perception of history. Rogan implied that this find may unite people as the moon landing did, gathering the world as one in curiosity about the unexplored. Yet, he also stated it may set people apart, particularly as to whose discovery it was and how the cultures value these finds.